A massive snow train is barreling toward the United States right now, and what's about to unfold over the next 7 days is going to be absolutely wild. We're talking about back-to-back-to-back winter storms slamming the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and East Coast, and this is all happening right after the Northeast just got buried by its worst blizzard in over a decade. But here's the thing. It's not just snow. We're also about to ride one of the craziest temperature roller coasters I've ever seen, swinging from bone-chilling Arctic air to temperatures flirting with 90 degrees in parts of Texas. Buckle up because this forecast is intense. Let's start with what just happened because it sets the stage for everything that's coming. That nor'easter that ripped through the Northeast was nothing short of historic. We're talking close to 40 inches of snow in certain spots. Long Island got absolutely hammered with a widespread 20 to 30 inches stretching from New York City all the way out to Montauk. But Massachusetts and Rhode Island, that's where this storm really flexed its muscles. Areas near Providence stacked up around 38 inches of snow. And get this, that actually surpasses the legendary 1978 blizzard. We're talking nearly 9 inches more than that infamous storm. If you lived through that blizzard or heard stories about it, just imagine something even bigger. That's what just happened. South of Boston, near Milton, they pulled in about 24 inches. Plymouth, which also dealt with brutal winds during this thing, saw around 30 inches pile up. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking your area didn't get nearly as much as forecasters predicted, and that's fair. But for a lot of communities, this thing over-delivered in a big way, and the cleanup is still going on. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. A massive pattern shift is setting up across nearly the entire country, and this thing is going to reshape our weather for the rest of February and push right into early March. Right now, there's a deep dip in the jet stream along the East Coast that's funneling Arctic air straight out of Canada and pushing it as far south as Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. This morning was one of the coldest we've had down in the Southeast since the beginning of February. Meanwhile, that monster nor'easter has moved on into Nova Scotia and is basically done. The heavy snowfall is over for today, but don't get comfortable because tomorrow brings more snow to the Northeast. Thursday and Friday bring another round. And there's yet another potential storm lurking in early March. That's potentially 3 separate winter storms hitting the Northeast in just the next week. Looking ahead to Wednesday and Thursday, a big high-pressure system is going to anchor itself over Baja California, driving a really energetic jet stream in a mostly west to east flow. But there's a subtle but important dip forming over North Dakota and Western Canada, and that little wrinkle is going to act like an assembly line for Alberta Clippers and other storm systems tracking across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. This conveyor belt of storms is what's going to keep the snow chances alive across the Ohio Valley, Midwest, and East Coast through the middle and end of this week. Then things get even more interesting heading into next weekend. There's growing potential for a larger and more organized storm system to develop along the East Coast around Friday or Saturday. And that one could bring significantly more problems than these Clipper systems we'll be dealing with earlier in the week. Once we cross into March, we're entering a whole new phase. March kicks off severe weather season, and historically, March through June is when tornadoes and severe thunderstorms really ramp up. The jet stream is expected to lift northward, which means winter storm activity will gradually shift into the upper Midwest and northern portions of the Northeast. At the same time, we'll start seeing some serious storm systems capable of producing severe weather, likely during those first couple weeks of March. So we're entering this transitional period where winter and spring are going to be fighting it out, and that clash is exactly what produces some of the most dramatic weather of the year. Now let's break down the individual storm systems heading our way. Today we already have a small Alberta Clipper organizing across the upper Midwest and southern Canada. On top of that, an atmospheric river event is dumping heavy rain along the coastline of Northern California and western Oregon, with significant snowfall hitting the higher elevations. As we move through this afternoon, that Clipper is going to slide across Wisconsin, Michigan, and northern Illinois, bringing light snow showers with pockets of moderate to heavy snow possible in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. By tonight, this low-pressure system will strengthen modestly, while also spreading out into a broader area of influence. That means Wednesday morning is going to feature a wide swath of light to moderate snow showers from the Ohio Valley into the northeast. This particular system won't be a major event. Most areas are looking at 1 to 3 inches. Those spots near Lake Erie and Lake Ontario could see localized totals closer to 3 to 6 inches thanks to some lake enhancement. New England will pick up a few inches Wednesday morning into the afternoon, but nothing close to what the nor'easter just delivered. The real action comes late Wednesday into Thursday, when a surge of moisture from that Pacific Atmospheric River event pushes over the Rockies and energizes our next significant storm. This one has the potential to be quite impactful, with both snow and possibly even some severe weather returning to the picture. By early Thursday, an elongated band of snow will stretch from South Dakota and Minnesota all the way into Ohio. Meanwhile, down in the Tennessee Valley and Dixie Alley, the Storm Prediction Center is already monitoring the potential for damaging winds and an isolated tornado risk, mainly across Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and southeastern Tennessee. On the northern flank of this storm, another dose of heavy snow will target Maryland through New Jersey, Long Island, and southern New England. This isn't a nor'easter by any means, but it will add several more inches on top of what's already on the ground, and with temperatures staying cold, that snow isn't melting anytime soon. What really has my attention, though, is what the models are showing for the first few days of March. Around February 28th, another Alberta Clipper will swing through Canada and could clip northern New England with some snow. An Arctic high will follow behind it, and as that high passes by the Great Lakes, we'll see some snow showers wrapping around it. But the bigger story is what develops on the backside of that high pressure. The GFS is painting a pretty significant picture with a large area of snow, freezing rain, and sleet forming across Iowa, Kentucky, and central Illinois before evolving into a much more substantial winter storm as it interacts with energy from yet another Clipper passing through Canada. There's still uncertainty about exactly how this storm will evolve, but if it comes together the way some models suggest, the Northeast could be staring down another major winter storm in those first few days of March. The Climate Prediction Center has already flagged this, placing a slight risk for heavy snowfall across the Northeast during that time frame. In terms of total snow accumulation over the next week, the Midwest and Northern Plains are looking at a few inches spread across Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas, and northern Illinois. Those numbers climb as we push into March, but there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding that next big system. In the Northeast, Wednesday's Clipper will drop a couple inches in most spots, maybe 3 to 6 near the Great Lakes. Then, the Thursday and Friday system bumps those numbers up, and by the weekend, we could be looking at a widespread 2 to 5 inches with the potential for those numbers to trend higher as we get closer. And then, March could bring another significant dump on top of all of that. Now let's talk about this absolutely insane temperature situation. There's an Arctic blast gripping the East Coast this morning, but it's going to vanish almost entirely by tomorrow. Then by Wednesday, warmth starts building aggressively across the Great Plains and desert Southwest. The Northeast, though, even as the main Arctic air retreats, is going to catch another slug of cold air on the backside of that Alberta Clipper coming through. It's almost like the groundhog's prediction was surgically precise. 6 more weeks of winter, but only for the Northeast. The rest of the country is basically fast-forwarding to spring. By Friday and Saturday, spring-like conditions will dominate across the Great Plains and Ohio Valley. But another large Arctic air mass is building behind that, currently aimed primarily at the northern plains and Midwest. A winter storm should try to develop somewhere in the Midwest and Ohio Valley around Sunday and Monday of next week, and then that cold air will spill eastward into the Northeast once again. Heading into the first full week of March, the Northeast looks stuck in a stubborn cold pattern, with more snow still on the way. It's honestly remarkable how persistent winter is going to be up there. Today's high temperatures are already hitting the 70s and nearly 80 in Kansas, which is wild for late February. By Thursday and Friday, the warmth will mostly retreat toward the Gulf Coast before surging northward again as the pattern shifts. Friday and Saturday will see 50s and 60s across much of the Midwest and northern plains, with some snow starting to melt in New Jersey and Long Island. And then, by late Saturday into Sunday, parts of Texas could be approaching 90 degrees. 90 degrees in late February. Let that sink in. Heading into the first week of March, cold air will remain entrenched across the Midwest and Northeast, while the warmth stays bottled up in the Tennessee Valley and Gulf Coast states. But with temperatures this warm pushing so far north, severe weather season is going to ignite before we know it. It's really just a matter of time before we start seeing some significant severe weather outbreaks, and this pattern is setting the stage perfectly for that. So the bottom line is this: winter is far from over, especially if you're in the Northeast, Midwest, or Ohio Valley. Multiple rounds of snow are coming. Temperatures are going to swing wildly from Arctic cold to spring warmth and back again. And we could be looking at some truly significant storms as we transition from February into March. Stay prepared, stay informed, and make sure you're keeping an eye on the forecast because this pattern is going to keep delivering surprises.